Welcome back to another episode of Rob Sports Center. As you can see by the title and by the thumbnail, today we're going to be breaking down some film on Trent McDuffie. Now, disclaimer, Trent McDuffie is probably by far one of my top corners. I don't know what my official list of top corners in the NFL is, but I know for most definitely that he makes that. But we're going to start off with this play, man. For one, man, just look at the level of play recognition, right? You know, it tells you, like, when you see a guy that's out there and that's reacting as fast as he is, it's almost like it's not like it's a reflex opposed to a reaction. And, you know, in order to get to that point, it takes a lot of film study to kind of really see, okay, this is what this team likes to do in these situations down and distance wise. So he just does a good job at just reading this route right here. They kind of just sent the outside guy out to kind of try to distract him. And then they sent Zay, I think that Zay Flowers out the backfield. And he just did a good job at reading it, but not only reading it, but then coming down and being able to make that tackle in open field. And that is one of the key signs or key characteristics or traits, however you want to terminize it, in terms of being a good defense for one, but a good defensive player. Can you make those open field tackles? And he did, to create the turnover on downs. So right here we got a red area defense. This is actually on one of the best receivers in the NFL, which is Jamar Chase. You see that they got him in a one-on-one matchup. So if you look, McDuffie's kind of playing to the outside, you know, kind of slightly outside leverage. Obviously, you know, he has inside help because, you know, you look at the linebacker and you look at the safety, and that's just a condensed. That's what you would consider a messy look for the quarterback. Typically, the quarterback is probably going to try to go away from the messy look. And what I mean by messy look is the area where a lot of defenders are at. So right here, McDuffie, like I said, he does a good job at playing outside leverage. Jamar Chase really didn't give him no move. He kind of just ran a route and he just kind of sat on it and was able to get on his underneath hip and to be able to prevent the pass from being completed. But like I say, you know, he did a good job at utilizing his leverage. You know what I mean? You know, you got help inside wise. So my thing is I can't give up outside, because if I give up outside, there's no help out there. We lose in that situation. So if I give you outside shade, and even if I do give up some inside leverage, I know that my help is there. So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, that Jamar Chase, that this pass is complete, you're looking at possibly a hit from number 6 that could also jar the ball out. So that's just a good job at kind of understanding the situation and knowing where your leverage is, and kind of you will know where your help is and basing your leverage off of that. So we saw the pass coverage on this very previous play, but see, this is one of the things that I love about McDuffie, man. One thing that I love about a corner, I love a physical corner that does not mind sticking his nose in a run and being able to make tackles, just like how he did right here. So he just pretty much comes off the edge unblocked. But the thing is, I mean, it's easy to come off the edge unblocked, but he comes off the edge unblocked with a purpose. Most guys, I feel like corners wise, they just kind of stick to, okay, my job is outside containment. My job is to just force the run inside. But to be dominant as a run defense, I truly believe that you need your corners to play a part, right? Because if you keep everything gapped up on the inside, kind of like what they do right here, where else are they going to go? He's going to bounce outside. So if your corners aren't willing to come downhill and make tackles, or if they can't make tackles, now what good does that do if we gap up everything in the middle and stop it there, but they attack us laterally, right? So he does a good job of just being able to come off of the edge, good form tackle, getting low, squaring them up, wrapping them up, and just bringing them down to the ground for a tackle. Once again, man, we got another red area tackle. And matter of fact, actually, this was a third down tackle. This was a third down drive in and tackle. I'm not quite sure if they went for it or not, but this was a third down tackle. So obviously, you know, they're in the red area. You know me, I always say that once you get in the red area, every possession is a gotta have a possession, whether it's first, second, third, or fourth. When you get in the red area, you want to come down there and you want to score points. You know, the name of the game is putting up points, and you want to be able to score points, whether it's a touchdown or a field goal, but preferably you want a touchdown, but you will settle for 3. So once again, man, he just does a good job at finding a hole, sticking his nose in there, and just coming downhill and being able to make a tackle. And like I say, man, you look at McDuffie. McDuffie is like the best of both worlds, right? You got a corner who can actually cover. You can match him up with the best receivers in the NFL, and he's gonna do his thing. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna say he's gonna lock those guys down, but he's gonna compete and he's gonna make them work for everything that they get. But then he also has the tackling ability of what you would consider a safety. You know what I mean? So to have a guy that has that good of cover skills on top of the tackling ability, that's like the perfect thing that you can ask for when it comes to a corner. So right here, you got Trent McDuffie at the top of the screen. So you remember what I was talking about in the red area when we talk about leverage. So when you're playing, and this is a cover one by the way, which is a single high safety. Everything else is man-to-man coverage. So when you're playing cover one, a lot of the times you're going to base your leverage based off of where the distance between you and the safety, right? Because the safety is your help inside wise, right? So if this was coming inside, it depends on, it looks like they did kind of have like a little floater right there, which was number 50 or number 30. So I say that to say you did have some leverage you had some protection inside if he did do an inside release. But if that was the case, you want to play outside leverage to force him in, because your help is inside. Right now, where don't you have help at? Down the field or vertically up the sideline, obviously, because you got a middle field safety. So anything in terms of a post route or anything that's going to be treading going into his territory, that's where your help is at. So you don't want to get beat outside. So right here, he does a good job at being able to kind of stay over the top of him. So if you look right here, right there, he's at the top of him. That's exactly where you want to be. Because if he was to try to cut inside, he has to go through you to get inside, and that's just not going to happen. So he does a good job at being able to stay on top of him, and then just being able to get his head around and being able to make a play on that, a play on the ball. Like I say, man, this dude right here is like he's really like that. And I don't just pump up a lot of guys, man, but I've been watching this guy for a while now, and it's like I say, man, it's like he just continues to get better and better. But that's just phenomenal technique, and that's just phenomenal effort on this play right there. So right here, once again, you got McDuffie, who's at the bottom of the screen. You got a 3rd and 9 player, got to have a situation. Obviously, 3rd down. We want to get a stop, and we want to be able to get off the field and put our offense on the field to try to put up points. So he just does a good job at getting physical at the line of scrimmage, man. I just love that level of physicality, man. We're going to take another look at that again. So we ain't going to talk about the tackle yet. We're gonna talk about that physicality. So here we go. Just look at him. Getting his hands on him, being physical with him, and getting his eyes back to the quarterback. So he realized what the quarterback was trying to do, was trying to throw this little drop down route, and based off of leverage, the running back really had the linebacker beat. So he had Bolden beat right here. If McDuffie doesn't come back downhill, 9 times out of 10, that's a first down. It might not be much after that, but that's still a first down. But McDuffie recognizes that's where he's trying to go with it, and he just does a good job at reading it and being able to come downhill and make a play. Like I said, man, once again, man, just look at the level of physicality, man. Like, just look at it and then try to go for the rip right there, man. I just love to see that when you're looking at a corner. That's the type of effort you normally see from a safety in terms of physicality. But this guy plays corner, but he has a safety's mentality. Now, watching film on this, I know that Baker Mayfield wished that he could have this play back. I know that when he went and watched film on this, he probably was just like, man. So if you notice number 81, he releases inside, but he goes and he knocks down number 20, who is Eric Reed. So right there, he's wide open, and he has time too. I'm talking about Baker Mayfield, because Bolden would have never got there, like right there. Bolden would have never got there before he was able to get that pass off. Now, you can say that Bolden might have jumped up and tried to swat it. That's a possibility. But Bolden would have never got to Mayfield before he was able to get that ball to number 81. But Trent McDuffie just does a good job at kind of, it's almost like he was playing 2 people, because of number 81 knocked Eric Reed down. Now he's kind of underneath number 81, but he's over the top of the other guy that's coming out of the backfield. And he just does a good job at, man, just being able to track the ball and track the receiver's hands and just being able to get that pass break up to prevent a touchdown here. Once again, man, what's not to like about this dude? Just look at how he takes on the blocker, and he just kind of keeps the blocker at bay as he tracked the ball and just pushed the block off with one arm and was able to just kind of push him off like he was a kid. Just push him off with one arm and was able to get the wide receiver wrapped up. Now, granted, he was already kind of going out of bounds, but he just put the icing on the cake right there with that. So right on this play, you got McDuffie at the top of the screen. You got a red area possession right here, man. And, man, honestly, they did a good job between Eric Reed and between McDuffie at just being able to defend this. You see the Panthers was like in a tight split, a tight bunch formation. And I think their objective was to try to confuse guys, to maybe get guys to be locked onto one guy and the other guy running free. But you see Eric Reed, he does a good job at being able to latch on to Thielen and just being able to track his hip. And then McDuffie just does a good job at being able to catch up and just get his head back to the quarterback and to be able to play the ball for a pass breakup. But like I say, man, this is another trait that you look for. And this is like, I want to say, man, probably like the 3rd or 4th pass breakup we've seen in the red area with him. And obviously, we know once we get in the red area, things become so much condensed, things become so much clustered. So you have to be able to operate within that, in that small space, and he does a good job at that. Like I said, once again, even just being able to get his eyes back on Bryce Young to play the ball so he don't get a PI. So right here, you got McDuffie at the top of the screen. So notice the formation that they had. So they had those receivers stacked up, kind of stacked on top of each other, right? So now what they were trying to do is hoping that they can get both of the Chiefs defenders to kind of be on the same level, opposed to one being closer to the line and one being off of the line. They were hoping to get both of them probably like, more equal to the line, to where whenever one ran out and one ran in, they could try to get those two to run into each other, and depending on which one bit overly aggressive, one of those guys would have been running free, whether it was the inside guy or the out guy. But they did a good job at staying off of the same level to where they can properly defend it. And once again, McDuffie just does a good job at, being able to, kind of get underneath it. Once again, kind of similar to the play he did with Jamar Chase. Obviously, once again, like I was saying, you know that your help is inside. I mean, you got Eric Reed right there. It looks like he might have been some type of little spy in a sense. And then obviously you got the safety right there, where you can't give up anything towards outside, because your safety wouldn't be able to get over it in time. So he does a good job at being able to get underneath and being able to break this pass up. Now I hope that this wasn't a pass interference, because to me this looked like clean coverage. I mean, if you look at it, boom, as soon as the ball hit his hands, McDuffie was right there and he went for the ball and not the hit. So hopefully that flag that they threw was not pass interference, because this looked like clean coverage to me. Now, notice how I was talking about how good this guy's cover skills is, right? You know how I said he's a corner with a safety's mentality. So also one of the added benefits to him, too, is his hands. He has some of the surest hands from a cornerback as well. It's always the stereotype that cornerbacks are pretty much receivers that just couldn't catch, which that ain't necessarily all the way always true. But he just does a good job of being able to play the ball in the air. Jameis Winston kind of just lobbed that thing up there, so he didn't make it that much difficult. But just look at the concentration for one, to be able to track it in the air. 2, to be able to make the catch. 3, be able to get your feet inbounds. And 4, be able to focus as a guy is pulling your face mask back. So he had all of those going up against him, and he still was able to come up with this interception. This is by far one of the best interceptions I've seen from this past season. So once again, man, see, this is for the people who say that football isn't physical anymore. That's for the people who don't watch film. That's for the people who aren't pugilists of the sport. So right here, you got McDuffie matched up on the slot. It's a man coverage, and you see that Nick Bolton's responsibility was the running back. So notice that Nick Bolton's responsibility was the running back, right? Trent McDuffie's responsibility was the slot guy. As soon as Trent McDuffie realized that ball was going to that running back, he beat Nick Bolton down the field to make a play on the running back. And like I said, man, once again, this is a corner that's coming downhill with bad intentions to make a tackle on a pretty solid running back. This is just not something you see a whole lot of. The willingness to want to come downhill and make tackles, man. That's what, to me, like I always say, I know I keep reiterating this, but that's the staple point of a successful run defense. It can't just be on the D lineman. It can't just be on the linebacker. Your DBs have to want to come downhill and make tackles, just like this one right here. He beats Nick Bolton to the punch. And once again, like I say, what's another statistic that we don't necessarily track, but is a very important factor into successful defenses? And that's the ability to make open field tackles, to take a 3-yard gain and leave it at that, opposed to turning a 3-yard gain to a 20-yard gain or a 30-yard gain with poor tackle, poor fundamentals. But the ability to make tackles in open field, man, that's a solidifying trait that all top defenses in NFL history possess. Man, watching McDuffie, man, breaking film down on McDuffie, man, that's making me want to go out there and tackle, man. Just look at this, man. You don't understand. To me, this is like poetry at motion, to see a corner that's willing to engage in tackling and that can make the tackle. So once again, man, they tried to catch him. They tried to get the ball out to Nico Collins and hopefully get a block on McDuffie to get some yards after the catch. But McDuffie just beats the guys to the punch and is able to get back there and make the tackle on Nico Collins for, what is that? Maybe a 1-yard gain. It might have been a loss. That looks like it was a loss to me. But just look at the depth. And like I say, once again, just pay attention to his eyes. Just pay attention to how he's able to recognize and drive. You know what I mean? Just like look at his eyes. It's almost similar to the play where I was showing against the Las Vegas Raiders, where he was jamming that guy up, got his eyes back in the backfield, realized that that's where they was going with the ball, and was able to come back down and make a tackle. It's the same thing right here. You watch his eyes. He see what they trying to set up at. Watch him. You see him. You see what they set up. He drive down, beats the receiver to the punch, and is able to make the tackle on Nico Collins, who is a big physical receiver. So once again, what's another thing? What's another key characteristic of a dominant defensive guy? Being able to create turnovers, right? Turnovers, create opportunities to put your offense on the field, to be able to put points up on the board. And then we also have this thing called hitting yardage, which are yards after turnovers, whether it's yards after fumble recovery or there's yards after after interception. So you look at where he caught the interception that put Kansas City in good field position. So it was a 3rd and 20 play. Got to have it play. I think the pass rush kind of got to CJ Stroud, and he kind of just was like, man, let me just try to get rid of this ball. So right here you have McDuffie lined up in a slot. That look like that's actually on Nico Collins, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to see, get a good look at that number. I think that is number 12. So man, he really just did a good job. It just really just kind of, it seemed like beating Nico Collins to the punch. It feel like when he seen that CJ Stroud was getting rid of the ball, he just really just undercut it, and was able to get there to get to the point of attack faster than Nico Collins was to be able to make the interception. But once again, man, they say that DBs can't catch, and look at this, man. This wasn't no easy interception, just like his first interception. He had to go down low to secure that interception. I know Nico Collins was probably getting sick of McDuffie, man. He probably was looking at McDuffie like, this dude is a gnat. But if you really look at it, if you want to be honest, this was the same play that they ran on the flip side. It was the same exact play, and he got the same exact result once again. They got McDuffie matched up on the outside. It's just one guy out there. They tried to get the lead receiver to go out there and get a block to allow Nico Collins to get some yards after the catch. But once again, McDuffie does a good job at peeping it out, reading it, and was able to beat the blocker to the point of attack and once again make an open field tackle on Nico Collins. Once again, man, what is a key characteristic of a dominant defensive player? Somebody who can turn the ball over. So McDuffie does a good job. This is a 3rd and 15, a gotta have it situation. Once again, man, McDuffie, he reads this like a book. He see where they're trying to go with the ball, and he just flies downhill, make an open field tackle. And this is a tight end, a big physical tight end, right? He's able to not only secure the tackle in open space on a big physical tight end to, for one, stop the game, so to prevent him from being able to get to the sticks to get a first down. But not only does he do that, he gets his hand in there and rips that ball out before the tight end goes out of bounds. Man, just look at that work of art, man. Let's take another look at that. Let's just look at this beauty that is this play right here, man. This is just work. Like I said, man, this has probably been one of the most exciting film sessions I have seen watching a guy. Like, I mean, this was just action-packed, and this was from a corner. Most corners videos you look at, if it's going to be action-packed, it's probably going to be, pass breakups, interceptions, which are good. But I also that's always one side to the story. I want to see, how do you tackle? I want to see, how do you fit into run fits? Are you able to, be a contribution to being able to stop the run? Obviously, you know what I mean? When you look at what Kansas City were able to do to Saquon Barkley in the Super Bowl and minimize his effectiveness, that came down to more than just the D linemen and the linebackers. It came down to the willingness of guys like McDuffie, the willingness of guys like Justin Reed to come downhill and make those tackles and help in run support. Like I say, man, to deal with a dominant running back, it's not a one-man task, it's a team task. So not to get too far off topic, man, but I just was kind of trying to give you guys an illustration of the importance and the significance of what we was watching today, breaking film down on this guy right here, man. But if you guys enjoyed this video, man, do me a big favor, man. Make sure you smash that thumbs up button. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. And when you subscribe, make sure that you got that notification bell on. That way you be notified every time I upload. Let's take one more look at that before I end this video, man. Let's just take one more look at that. Let's take one more look at this beauty. Let's take one more look at that. Secure the tackle. Boom. Give me that. Yeah. And by the way, they recovered that too. I'll see y'all in the next video.